All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Metaphysical Bible Hangout. I am Reverend Sherri James, and I am the Senior Minister for Understanding Principles Church and the creator of this Bible Hangout. And I am really excited. I'm coming to you from Nashville. I'm in a hotel room. This is not my normal setting. I am here for the International New Thought Alliance, their 104th Congress. And the International New Thought Alliance has an interesting mission that I would share with you. I'll try to reach for it without too much trouble here. But this Congress is really amazing. So the International New Thought Alliance is a member organization. You can be an individual member or you can be a group member. And they have a very specific mission that I thought was really powerful. The intention of the INTA Congress is to establish an arena for a welcoming and inclusive environment, communication, networking, and supporting all New Thought leaders, students, schools, ministries, and throughout the world, moving from theory to practice, individuals knowing they are one with God and are created to live a meaningful and fulfilling life through responsible participation, being inspired and lifted to new heights of spiritual quickening, charging humanity with a passion for peace, brotherhood, prosperity, and wholeness of mind and body. And so I have been here as a part of this incredible conference. It's been really remarkable coming out of Panorama of Truth and then moving into INTA and being a part of this conversation today. And I'm just really, it's been remarkable. I cannot say enough good things about the experience. And if you ever get a chance to attend, I highly recommend that you do. It's absolutely amazing, an amazing experience. There are people from, so we go to Panorama of Truth, which just concluded in Miami for the Universal Foundation for Better Living. But what's different about INTA versus Panorama of Truth is it's for anybody who wants to attend, but essentially it's an event for the Universal Foundation for Better Living, which is a member organization made up of churches, study groups, and centers. Whereas the INTA, you can have individual members, you can have church members, you can have lifetime members, a number of different ways to be a member, but it isn't specific to any particular branch of New Thought. In fact, it brings together divine science, religious science, or centers of spiritual living, Universal Foundation for Better Living, unity, and then any other of the disciplines that are included or inclusive of New Thought, and that includes a number of different faith traditions. Those are just the ones that I named that are just specific to New Thought. So that's what I'm here doing. So thank you very much. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's just whenever it got up on YouTube. But if you are joining me live, you are here. Thank you for staying up a little bit later. Very much appreciate that. I spoke tonight, and so doing this class a little bit later gives me an opportunity to still do the class and finish and get back to the hotel. Which thank you guys for allowing that. Also, I want to let you know next week I'm going to be in Sacramento teaching a training for prayer chaplains, and that training is happening right in the middle of class. I don't know that next week is going to make sense because in order to get it done, I would have to teach class at 9 o'clock Los Angeles time, which would be midnight East Coast. So I'm not going to ask you to do that. We will not have class or the prayer call next week. We will resume on August 8th. So we will miss a Thursday. I know that's not my favorite thing, but we will miss a Thursday next week. So I just want to let you know that. All right, let's get to it. So we're going to start on Leviticus. And we started with a conversation with Dr. Will Coleman to really just set us up for Leviticus. But first, prayer. And so I just want to, just right where you are, just center yourself. And just take a deep cleansing breath. That we are continuing our deep dive into the Torah. And we are thanking you, Spirit, for just guiding this conversation, for giving us what we need in order to have a deeper relationship with you. Thank you for clarifying the words in our Bible so that we have an understanding of them, and that we are growing up to see the word as it's being presented, and moving beyond the doctrine that any of us have been given over our lifetime. We thank you for just strongholds in our mind coming down where we may have had biases against the Bible or against scripture. And we just thank you so much for just opening our hearts and our minds to really look at this text with fresh eyes, with a fresh heart, so that we may receive the message that's in it for us today. I thank you because I know that you hear me when I pray. And so I just relax, I let go, and I let it be. Amen and Ashe. And so it is. All right. So I do have one more announcement to give you. I'm going to be coming out with this information in 24 hours. Okay. 24 hours. So one of the things that I am doing, I'm in the midst of doing financial peace, and I'm sharing this part of it because this is part of my journey. So it is to be a blessing, and also to others, and also a blessing to me. So one of the things with financial peace, if you have ever done financial peace before, is it is about debt-free living and managing your money in the most spiritually ethical way possible. And so in that debt-free living, it is about getting rid of consumer debt. And then once you take care of that, building up your 3 to 6 month savings, and then knocking down that mortgage debt. So that has been my journey. We're teaching financial peace right now at my church. And, I started the program more than a year and a half ago, but the session that I'm teaching now started in June 2019, and it's July 2019 at the taping of this broadcast. And in doing that, I got really gung-ho about the small debts, and I got those out of the way. But then I realized I kind of lost that intensity, and I did not really knock out those bigger debts. Those just kind of stayed looming in the balance for me, the mortgage debt, the student loan debt. And one of my realizations in teaching the class this time around was that I lost that gazelle intensity, that I got to the debt that seemed like the smaller debts felt, I don't want to say easy, but like once I made up my mind, it was easy to knock them out, but the bigger ones remained. So this time what I resolved is not to withdraw and not to pull back, but to lean in and do everything that I know to do to release them. And for me, releasing financial debt honestly is breaking generational curses. It is the pattern for handling debt in my family is that the number gets so big and you just become paralyzed to it, and you just kind of resign yourself to having debt. That's been my experience for pretty much my whole life in terms of how I've dealt with debt. So all of my life as an adult, I've had some type of financial debt, whether it was a mortgage or student loan debt or car debt or you name it, but some type of debt, or even a debt owed if I had borrowed money from a friend or something like that. And this coming through this season of financial peace, I got to a place I realized that, Sherri, as a leader, and you're asking people to take this journey, you've got to run out ahead and show that it can be done. And I've got a big enough number as far as debt is concerned that when it's gone, it will make a difference. So, as that's a whole lot of setup. So what I'm doing is I'm offering a 30-day metaphysical Bible challenge. Let me tell you what that looks like. That means that every morning I'm going to meet whoever signs up. It's 30 days, $30. Whoever signs up, I'm going to meet you and be in the morning and be your accountability partner. And I have a whole journal that I'm designing, journal and planner, that I will work with you on whatever your personal goals are. So I'm going to get personally involved with helping you to meet your goals. And we're going to, so at the start of the month, we're going to say, I'm going to be responsible for you know, I want to lose 10 pounds. So I'm just throwing it out there. Honestly, it could be any goal that you want. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take that goal and we're going to break it down into little bitty chunks and little bitty steps that you're going to do every day. And then what's going to happen is that every day when we meet in the morning, you're going to basically, hey, did you meet your goal? Great. And so we'll have a little bit of inspiration. I have a very specific Bible story that we're going to use and work with metaphysically. And we're going to work together every day. And what I'm going to be showing you in this process, I'm going to be helping you develop the habit for goal achievement. That I'm going to show you my system for accomplishing your goal. So it's a very powerful class. And very good, babe. Okay. Hey, honey, I'm teaching my class. Remember, close the door. Okay. All right. He showed me his paper airplane. He just made a new paper airplane. So BJ, the class right now, the time that I have set is let me think about that. I'm torn between 5 a.m. Pacific and 6 a.m. Pacific. I'm thinking 5 a.m. Pacific. So for the East Coast, that would be 8 a.m. For the Central Standard Time, it would be 7 a.m. For Mountain Standard Time, that would be 6 a.m. I think that's the time we're going to stick to, is the 5 a.m. because that way I know for sure Jordan will be asleep and I'll be able to teach, and I won't have what just happened just now, which is, Mom, look at my paper airplane. So I think, yeah, I'm locked in 5 a.m. And then if we get in the month and we see, 5 a.m. doesn't work, and for September, I'm going to do it differently. But this is my effort, and I'm encouraging you to mimic it in your world if you need to. Let me be an example for you to take this information and to utilize it. Is that if you have debt to get rid of, what thing can you create, offer to the marketplace, and as the resources come in, go and pay the debt. So, you know, outside of my tithe, everything that comes from those classes is basically going to go to knock down that debt. And that's me doing my gazelle intensity. So, and my promise to myself is that when I knock down all of the debt, I'm actually flying back to Nashville to go to the headquarters at Ramsey Solutions and to ring the bell. So that's my promise to myself. But anyway, I wanted to share that with you. So I'm going to, in the next 24 hours, I'm sending an email out about that, and whoever signs up, and I'm going to do it again for September. I'm going to do it again for October. So every morning, 5 a.m. But what I'm giving you is the system for goal achievement, the system for how do you take whatever it is that you want to do and break it down into small chunks. And I'm going to be your accountability partner to get you wherever it is that you want to go. So I say all that to say, sign up, join me, and be a part of my testimony, and let me be a part of your testimony. All right, so in getting everything together, I do not have my PowerPoint, so we are working from page 34 in the text. This is our text, a student guide to the Hebrew Scriptures by the Reverend Dr. Mary Ann Tumkin. And Dr. Coleman set us up last week talking about how do you prepare yourself to live free. That you have to have a set of habits that allow you, that don't put you back in slavery, essentially. And one of the things that's interesting is that coming out of, I think it's Michelle Alexander, she did a book called The New Jim Crow. I may have the title wrong. If somebody knows the title, put it in the comments, please. But I think she calls it The New Jim Crow. But essentially what happens is that this system of slavery has been reforming itself in different ways. And every generation, it recreates itself in some form. So in, pre-1865, it was slavery, the way that we talk about slavery. But then after 1865, you have this period of Reconstruction, but then you get, Jim Crow rearing its ugly head, separate but equal. You get the peonage system where Slavery is outlawed except for if you commit a crime. And so you've got basically people that are effectively slaves by ending up in jail. Um, you get, the men who go and serve in our military. They come back, but because of their Negro, or whatever was the designation at that time, they are not able to take advantage of the GI Bill, which allowed families that served, or someone in the service, in the military served, to basically buy their first home to help with that down payment. And so it compromised the ability to actually build wealth, because your home is one of those ways that you build up wealth in a family over time, because it becomes an asset that you can pass down to the next generation. Discriminatory laws in terms of lending, discriminatory laws in terms of how you pay for insurance. I mean, just one thing after another, and it's almost like the system just keeps reforming itself, almost like it's an organism, and it just keeps reforming itself. In order to break free from slavery, there has to be a habit change on the part of the people who you need it on both ends. You need it for the people that were the enslavers as well as people that were enslaved. But any one of those people changing consciousness will change the form, will change what the experience is. And so what Leviticus really is Dr. Coleman called it instruction, that it is instruction for living free. It is instruction. Thank you. Alita says The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. It is instruction for living free. And you have to have, if you're going to be free from any condition, from any circumstance, you have to have a set of rules for how you live free. If you make a change in your diet, let's say you lose weight, and you were 200 pounds and now you are 175 or 165 or whatever your number is, then there has to be a set of ritualized activities that support you staying at your new weight. Else, the old habits, the old ways of being creep back in. And so one of the things that's happening with the Israelites, that they have, that they're in the promised land, but now what they have to do is to develop, they're not in the promised land, they're still in the wilderness, but they're developing this ritualized activity that allows them to live free. They had to learn how to live free. They had to learn how to be responsible for the things that were at one point not a part of their responsibility. So if you look at page 34, where it says Roman numeral 1, ritualized activity is what goes in that blank. Ritualized activity. I'm gonna bring up a whiteboard. Hold on, where's my whiteboard? Did I lose my whiteboard? Oh, there it is. Okay, my whiteboard. All right. Okay. Oh, no, that's not what I want. Oh, that's not gonna do me any good. That's not gonna do me any good at all. Let me stop that. Okay. I wanted to be able to share. Let me get rid of that. Okay. So ritualized activity is what goes in that blank. So ritualized activity. So that is what you're looking at. You're looking at this ritualized activity, and it spares us from having to decide from scratch what we're going to say or do in typical situations. So this is what Leviticus is giving us. It is giving us this ritualized activity. How do I decide what it is that I am going to, how do I decide what it is that I am going to do on a daily basis? And the reason this is important is because the if you had to decide everything that you're going to do on a daily basis, it would literally tax you and you would be tired. It's why children at Jordan's age sleep for the length of time that they sleep, because they're making so many decisions and everything is so new and nothing is yet habit. They're just now beginning to form habits. By the time we get to adulthood, more than half of what we do on a daily basis is habitual. And so what Leviticus is giving us is these are the habits. I don't want to just leave this a chance. These are the habits that are the successful habits. You can almost think of Leviticus as a success manual for the Israelites. Like, this is how you live. When you are developing yourself spiritually, when you are becoming who God created you to be, there is a way of showing up. One of the things that I had to learn in creating success is that I had to learn how to set goals and achieve them. And I wish I could tell you that I learned that as a child, but honestly, I didn't. It was as an adult, because for me, everything was all or nothing. Either I was going hard in the paint or I was, barely moving a project along. And what I had to learn in order to be successful is how to work in small pieces. Is one of the things I'm going to be teaching in the 30-day Metaphysical Bible Challenge. Is I'm going to be teaching, what is that system? I have developed a system for how do you go from where you want to be to from where you are to where you want to be. And it's a different way of approaching. It is even the way that I structure my year and approach my year. I work in a different way than most people work. And so I don't set, New Year's resolutions, particularly because the way that works, you just lose momentum along the year. And so I have a system that I work with that is allowing me to get more done in 12 weeks than most people get done in 12 months. So ritualized activity, it allows you to not have to decide from scratch what it is that you're going to say or what it is that you're going to do in typical situations. It allows you to like, some things are set. So if you one of the things that I learned is that you have to have a morning routine. When I stumbled upon that, I immediately brought that to you guys. I read Hal Elrod's oh gosh, I forgot what the name of his book is, Hal Elrod, but it calls it Lifesavers. And they were these, 6 activities that you do on a daily basis in the morning that were part of basically conditioning you, because the first hour of the day is the rudder of the day. Letter A, most of Israel's rituals are found in the books of Leviticus and Numbers. Most of Israel's rituals are found in the books of Leviticus and Numbers. The purpose of the ritual legislation found there is to maintain a sound and respectful relationship with God. A sound and respectful relationship with God. That what we're trying to do with these behaviors is, how do I have a sound and respectful relationship with God? Now, think about that. Is that any different from our morning routine? Whatever your morning routine is, if your morning routine includes some type of prayer, some type of meditation, some type of reading, whatever that is that any different from, doesn't that set up your relationship with God? It organizes your relationship with the divine. And so you don't have to guess, how do I build my relationship with God? If you have taken the Lenten classes that we offer at Up Church, one of the things that we do is that we started with Mae McCarthy, but we continued it with Venice Bloodworth, is that we gave you a daily structure for how you move through the day. And so we started the day with prayer, with meditation, right? Alita says order. That we basically began the day in order. And then we gave you something to do that you journal the things that you were grateful for, and you got grateful for the things that you were asking God for, so that if you read through your letter to God or your letter to your CSO, if you use that term, that if you read through that letter, everything read like a thank you, and as if everything was manifested, even the things that you were asking God for that had not yet taken on physical form. And then during the day, you were asking your CSO, your chief spiritual officer, for hints and nudges along the way. And that you were setting yourself up to anticipate, to expect answers to the things that you had prayed about and asked God for in the morning. And then when you got to the evening, then you took a look back at where you had been, you looked at your successes, and you did some forgiveness and some gratitude before you went to bed. That's no different than Leviticus. That's no different than saying that I'm setting up myself to have a sound and respectful relationship with God. A sound and respectful relationship with God. Letter B. Both Leviticus and Numbers are predominantly concerned with matters of ritual, sacrifice, and priesthood. Ritual, sacrifice, and priesthood. Look over sacrifice and priesthood. So ritual, what do you do on a daily basis? What do you do on a daily basis? There are, if I could get you to see that people are looking at this book like a success manual. The same way that we pick up How to Win Friends and Influence People, or the Napoleon Hill, The Laws of Success, or Think and Grow Rich. People are looking for, what are the rituals, what are the habits? Brendan Burchard has a book that he released called the High Performance Habits. One of my favorite books, written by James Clear, Atomic Habits. Excellent, excellent book. Or The Slight Edge. That these are rituals. What are the rituals that you practice on a daily basis that keep you in alignment, or in agreement? We would say it this way in the modern world, that keep you in agreement with the universe. What did I do? Okay, there we go. We know that we can't sit around and be envious toward other people and then expect to have our blessings answered. We know we can't allow ourselves to sit in a state of doubt. So we build habits around action. That's one of the things that you're going to be getting in the 30-day metaphysical Bible challenges. How do I take little actions every day? Because action is the antidote to fear. Action is the antidote to fear. Action is the way that you form belief, is you take action, because your belief begins to form based on the action that you're taking. And you do reach a point where belief tips into conviction. And I can't tell you when that's going to come, because that, it's different for everybody. But I know that if you keep going in the direction that you're moving in, that eventually what you believe in will become convicted by. And essentially at that point, you stop pushing the idea, and the idea begins to pull you. You can't help but take action towards it. So this is some really powerful stuff. But again, that ritual, what happens with the ritual is that you push with the ritual in the beginning, but eventually the ritual begins to pull you. If you think about that there was a point in your life where practicing the ritual of brushing your teeth, you had to remind yourself to brush your teeth. Now you've been doing it for so long, the ritual pulls you. You don't get out the house without brushing your teeth. In fact, you get to the door and it's like, did I do it? Sacrifice, right? So it matters of sacrifice. So the thing about sacrifice is that everything has a cost. Everything has a cost. And so you need to know what that cost is. If you want to be a tennis star, if you want to compete at the level of the Serena Williams, there's a cost. If you want to compete at the level of a Usain Bolt, there's a cost. Everything has a cost. And so you must count the cost for whatever it is. So sacrifice is about what is it that you're going to give up in order to have whatever it is that you're asking God for. What are you willing to give up in order to have whatever it is that you're asking God for? There is nothing that you want that you are not going to have to sacrifice in some way. If you want to lose weight, you're going to have to sacrifice something. One way or another, there is something that you're going to have to release in order to release the weight. Because your current habits, your current way of being is supporting you looking exactly the way that you look right now. And if you're going to look different, then you're going to something is going to have to go. Some habit is going to have to be sacrificed. Some habit is going to have to be released in order for a new habit to come in and occupy that space. And you have to decide, what is that going to be? And so what Leviticus is saying is that these are the things that you sacrifice that are a part of keeping you in alignment with God, that are keeping you in alignment with the universe. I'm going to help you. If you want to lose weight, here's what you got to sacrifice. If you want to have success in business, here's what you have to sacrifice. If you want to have success financially, here's what you have to sacrifice. You know, like I said, part of why I'm doing the challenge is that this is my way of developing gazelle intensity to pay off the debts that I've incurred over my lifetime. But I realize that it is sacrificing comfort. It's just being honest about the debt that I have, right? It's being just transparent about that. So it's sacrificing protecting my ego. It's sacrificing, looking like I got it all together. It's sacrificing whatever I have, image that I put out there, and letting that go in order to have real prosperity, in order to have a real debt-free lifestyle, not just knock out the ones that are easy to knock out, but to tackle those big booger that feel massive to me the way that they do. So like I said, that both Leviticus and Numbers are predominantly concerned with matters of ritual, sacrifice, and priesthood. Priesthood, how do you relate to God? What are the religious activities that you do as part of being a part of this community? What are your practices? There was a way that we practiced when we were in slavery with the Egyptians, but there's a different way that we show up now that we are free from Egyptian bondage. How has that changed? How is that different? Roman numeral 2, Leviticus in its entirety. Sorry, I got the wrong thing here. Leviticus in its entirety belongs to the priestly tradition of the Pentateuch. It consists of various collections of religious laws. It consists of various collections of religious laws, and these are some of the religious laws. The laws of sacrifice, ordination rites of the priests, laws of purity, holiness code, and then there's an appendix on religious vows. So the laws of sacrifice, we talked about that. Ordination rites of the priests, laws of purity. There's a big emphasis on purity. How do you keep yourself clean? How do you keep yourself clean? This is really important, because how clean you are is how acceptable you are to the divine. That God is ultimate cleanness. So if you're going to come to God, then you're going to have to basically make yourself presentable to God. And then there's the holiness code, that how do you protect the cleanness that you have? And then there's an appendix on religious vows. Let me know if there are any questions. Feel free to put those in the comments. At the top of page 35, there are 3 general approaches to the biblical system of clean and unclean things. There are 3 general approaches to the biblical system of clean and unclean things. The first one is hygiene theory. The second one is cultic theory. And the third one is structuralist theory. So hygiene theory, again, it's about the cleanness. Am I presentable to God? Now, we tend to look down on or badly at this hygiene theory and how it, today there are people today, that are what we consider Orthodox Jews, and they won't shake your hand and they won't, have any kind of touching or whatever, and it is, we sort of, poo-poo that. But the truth is that we have our own, hygiene laws in terms of some simple things that are like have nothing to do with religion and or spirituality. It's just cleanliness, washing your hands, washing your hair, washing your body. I mean, these are all part of like how do you handle yourself on a daily basis. But then even in our spiritual communities, we have our version of what clean looks like. It may not be in the form of, well, I don't touch people that are not, practicing New Thought Christians, right? But I do have, rules around who do I hang around, who do I spend time with. I'm not going down unless I'm doing some type of service project. I'm not headed down to Skid Row looking for friends to hang out with, or I'm not headed to the nearest bar checking folk out to see who I can like kick it with, right? So we have our hygiene theory. Ours just looks different than this ancient community, but we have our hygiene theory. And again, it is all part of how do you stay clean? How do you keep yourself available to God? So you get into New Thought, and tell me if this sounds familiar. I don't read the news. We just keep the news off, or if we do, we like limit it because we don't want all that stuff in our minds, right? Isn't that what we say? We want our minds clear, so we don't take in certain kinds of information. There are certain kinds of entertainment that I just won't watch because I don't want that stuff in my mind. There's certain types of magazines. I can't tell you the last time that I have read a magazine like a Cosmopolitan or even an Essence. That it's like, do you want that information in your brain? Some of the gossip rags that are out there. Do you want that information in you? And again, this is part of our modern day hygiene theory. And I guess what I'm trying to get you to see is that these people were no different than we are. That they were seeking a relationship with God in the same way that we are seeking a relationship with God. And that they had their approach and we have our approach. And there is spiritual truth in the approach, even if the specifics of how they did it differ from how we do it. The second approach to the biblical system of clean and unclean is the cultic theory. The cultic theory. I didn't realize it was going to be like that. I'll pull this up here so we can see it. The cultic theory. With the cultic, so the thing about the cultic theory, the cult just means the practice. The cult means practice. The word cult means practice. It doesn't mean cult in the way that we use it in a modern way to speak about a group that is doing some crazy stuff, right? When we use the term cult today, we tend to think of like Jim Jones or, David Koresh, or something like that. We talk about it in a very negative sense, but the word cult is really about your practice. So there were a set of practices that were one of the biblical approaches to clean and unclean things. So there was like, what practices that do you have that maintain your cleanliness? I'll tell you some of the ones that I have today personally. When I get up in the morning, I meditate, right? Because I want to get my mind in alignment with the flow of the universe. I have a daily ritual of getting in the mirror and doing my commercial, my personal commercial, where I talk to myself and remind myself who I am and what I'm capable of accomplishing. I tend to read something inspirational in the morning. It might be from the Daily Inspiration, which is the periodical produced by the Universal Foundation for Better Living, or it may be a book that I'm reading right now. I am moving through the Purpose Driven Church as a piece of material. So it just depends. But my point is that there are practices that I have that are part of keeping my mind clean and available for the movement of spirit. I know that every day when I read something, and I only read for like, what, I don't know, 20 minutes. I mean, I'd love to read for longer, but I don't have that kind of lifestyle. I got a 5-year-old and a job and a business. So yeah, I get 20 minutes. But those 20 minutes make a difference in terms of my mindset, right? They make a difference in terms of what it is that I'm able to do. So what I'm saying is that the cultic practice, what are the cultic practices that you have? What are the things that you do on a daily basis that are a part of you keeping yourself clean for God? Same thing with food, is that there are certain practices that if you eat certain foods, they drag down your body, bottom line. And you can't afford to have them because they literally zap you of the energy that you need in order to be available and do the stuff God has called you to do. So some of the cultic practice has to do with what are the foods that you're eating. One of the things that I see happening, globally, is this move to more plant-based eating. That's a really big thing. I mean, I'm at at spiritual conferences, and I can't tell you the number of people that are moving to not just a vegetarian lifestyle, but are moving whole organizations. That one of the biggest contributors to our emissions, global emissions, is animal production. The all the production that goes into animal consumption, and just that footprint, and just making the choice to not eat meat culturally is going to have an impact on the environment. And so one of the presenters did a whole thing this time last year at the Fillmore Festival, encouraging people to basically not eat meat, which I thought was like, whoa. Right? I mean, as a church, like as a and it was a way to be spiritually ethical with the environment. I was like, I've never heard this before, but it is this movement again. What are the practices that are part of your approach to being presentable or available for the movement of spirit? What are your approaches? And then finally, it's structuralist. Structuralist. Forgive me if that pronunciation is not quite good. Structuralist. So everything has a place. Everything has a place. That's what that theory is about. Is that nothing exists in a void. Everything has a place. Everything has an order, a place where it belongs. And so that's what we're seeing there in that approach. So again, how do you keep things clean hygiene. How do you keep things clean? Cultic, the practice. What are the practices that keep you clean or keep you available to God? And structurally, what is the order that must be established in order to keep you available to God? The next number, I'm on page 35, Leviticus. I'm still letter B, but Roman numeral 3. Roman numeral 3. It says Leviticus employs a distinctive way of looking at the world in relation to God. Everything in the world has a set place in divine order. Everything has a set place in divine order, and everything derives its meaning from its relationship to God. It has so what goes in that blank is set place in divine order. Set place in divine order. So again, nothing just exists. Everything has a place that it belongs to. Everything has a place that it belongs to. And so when things are out of place, they are unclean or they are profane. Like it's a violation of the flow. But again, we look at that and I keep trying to relate it to something modern because I want you to get that we have our version of these same things. So when someone comes in your house, they'll, let's say they're a feng shui, maybe artist isn't the word, but a feng shui coach or therapist or whatever they are. But they'll come in and they'll look at how the room is configured, and things being in a certain place will stagnate the energy. And there's a way to organize your room, organize your home so that it allows the flow of energy. It allows the flow of energy. And so everything has a set place in divine order. And so you want to ask in your own environment, is the way that my life is set up, conducive to the best flow of spirit in my life? Some people are not necessarily morning people, and they may wait to the end of the day to do their prayer. Is that the best time for you? Because everybody is different. Is that the best time for you to do your prayer? Or do you find that you have gone through an entire day and had whatever experience you've had through that day, and maybe you would be better served of moving your prayer to the top of the morning? And so you make the sacrifice to get up earlier so that you're able to do your prayer. But again, everything has a set place in divine order. That's what this again, looking at Leviticus is about success habits. This is a success manual. How do you put yourself in alignment with the universe so that you have the greatest success for where it is that you're trying to go and where it is that God wants to take you? The terms that are critical to this worldview are holy and clean, and their opposites, profane and unclean. Holy and clean, profane and unclean. Holy and clean, profane and unclean. So holiness has to do, I hope you see where I am in the middle of page 35. The terms that are critical to this worldview are holy and clean, and their opposites, profane and unclean. And then number 1, holiness has to do with the qualitative difference and total otherness of God. Qualitative difference and the total otherness of God. Because God is totally different from humankind, humans need to respect this difference and stand in awe of him. Holiness has to do with the qualitative difference and total otherness of God. Because God is totally different from humankind, humans need to respect this difference and stand in awe of him. So again, this is it is You know, we in our modern vernacular in New Thought, we don't necessarily see ourselves as other and different from God. We see ourselves as emanating from God. And at the same time, we have rituals that are a part of us operating in accord with our spiritual nature and our divine nature. So we recognize that there is a part of us that is human and flesh, though it's not the truth of us. And we got to do something about that part of us. We want to spiritualize that part of us, is what you'll hear New Thought ministers say. We want to spiritualize the flesh. We want to spiritualize the conscious mind, spiritualize the subconscious mind, so that all of who we are is pointed in the direction of spirit. But again, it is recognizing that God is perfect, pure, whole, complete, lacking nothing, and completely at rest. And so we want to be in alignment with that perfection, with that wholeness, with that perfect peace. We want to be at one with that. We're reaching for an at one-ment with God. And so there are things that we have to do through prayer, meditation, and silence that are a part of bringing this human vessel into alignment so that it can be in agreement with God. That's holiness. That's our holiness. Now, in traditional settings, modern day traditional settings, it had to do with, well, do you have a dress on that, where the arms are covered? In some traditions, maybe not Christian traditions, is your head covered? Do the women have on makeup? Again, all this was about holiness, right? How do you recognize that God is holy, totally different from humankind, and that you respect this difference? And while we don't say God is different from humankind, because we say that we are emanations of God, we still do say there's something you got to do to be in alignment with God, to allow the flow of spirit. You want to become a worthy vessel for spirit to flow through. Not that we don't have worth, but that there is a way of putting ourselves together where we open up for the greatest flow of spirit possible. There is a way of organizing ourselves where we are available for the greatest flow of spirit possible. And there's a way of moving where we shut down the flow of spirit. So we can sit in a state of anger. We can sit in a state of jealousy or fear or doubt or any one of those things. And spirit can flow because spirit's going to flow. But if we refuse to forgive, or we refuse to let go, process anger, or process the grief, or really deal with some of the negative emotion, then we essentially limit the flow of spirit through us. And so in that sense, in our vernacular, that we have basically put barriers around what God can do through us. And so in a very real way, we have become profane and unclean. Because when I'm at my happiest, when I'm at my most joyful, I am the most open for the flow of spirit. I am my most generous. I am my most giving. I am my most loving when I'm at my highest vibration. And when I operate at a low vibration, I limit the flow of spirit. And so using the language from Leviticus, when I'm at that low vibration, I am profane and unclean. And when I'm at that highest vibration, I am holy and clean. Tell me if this is making sense. I'm trying to make this, I want you to get that these people are just like you and me, and that they are learning how to live free, and that we really are no different from them. It's just it's some ways that they did it versus the ways that we do it. And there are lessons that we can learn from looking at the way that they did it. Let me know if this is sticking. Y'all quiet. So either y'all fell asleep, but I appreciate you hanging in here with me. for this late night hour. This will be the two, the last two that I'll give on page 35. So the priestly rituals, the priestly rituals of Leviticus. That's what goes in the blank. The priestly rituals of Leviticus were intended to distance humans from their imperfect world so they could assume a measure of holiness that belongs to God. No different from what we do. Thank you. That the priestly rituals of Leviticus were intended to distance humans from their imperfect world so they could assume a measure of the holiness that belongs to God. And again, how is that any different from what we do? I would argue that it is not. That there is a way that we approach living that is meant to distance us from the imperfections of the flesh. We meditate, depending on your tradition, we chant, we do prayer journals, we sit in the silence, we go on long retreats, the Savapasana, we meditate in the silence for 10 days, or we go to conferences where we just like Panorama of Truth, or like the one that I'm at now, the International New Thought Alliance. But we have these different rituals that we do every year, sometimes every month, and sometimes every day, depending on the type of ritual it is, that is a part of distancing ourselves from our imperfect world so that we can assume a measure of holiness that belongs to God. That people come to Panorama of Truth because they want some spiritual enlightenment. They want a breakthrough. They're trying to break through in some area of their experience. And so they come to Panorama of Truth with the intent of breaking through, of opening up to the Spirit of God to receive whatever the Spirit has for them, whatever that is. And I'm saying that these priestly rituals are no different. They may not have used the term conference, or they may not have used the term retreat, but it doesn't change what the thing is. That these are ways of success. Leviticus is the ancient thinking grow rich. All right, last one. In order for the Israelites to become holy, they must refrain from sin and stay away from uncleanness. In the priestly worldview, sin was solely associated with uncleanness. Sin was solely associated with uncleanness. You could get that. Sin was solely associated. I'm on the bottom of 35. Sin was solely associated with uncleanness. Thank you, BJ. She said, I made it through the midnight. We're going to wrap it up right now. That it was related to uncleanness. Uncleanness. So it wasn't about the way that we have been taught about sin in a modern day vernacular. It was about, have you operated in a way that separated you from God? Have you made a choice that put you closer to the imperfect world and less close to God, to the holiness that's connected to God? And so the mistake, if you will, is in making choices that keep you anchored to the human world as opposed to dialing you into the spiritual world. So becoming holy was about refraining from sin. In other words, there was no such thing as we are all sinners. That is a later creation that comes about in, I think, largely in a Christian worldview, but not a Jewish worldview. It was very possible to walk without sin. which is why you could have a Jesus that walked without sin. This idea that we are all sinners is not, that is not that's a later construction. That's a later construction. Sin was about, are you doing things that get you close to God, or are you doing things that keep you anchored to humankind? And there was no such thing as being able to live life and all you get to do is sin. And in fact, you're born in sin. And that is a later Christian construction or concept slapped onto the text. But the idea that we are all sinners is not a Bible concept. And it's certainly not a Hebrew concept. That comes later. Maybe we can attribute it to Christian scriptures, but we certainly cannot attribute it to the Hebrew scriptures. That it was about, what are the practices? Are you doing the hygiene practices? Are you doing the cultic practices? Are you doing the structuralist practices? Are you doing the things that are a part of being clean versus the things that are a part of being unclean? Any questions? Any aha moments? Anything you heard differently tonight? Anything that helped you that you can use this week? Wonderful. Okay. No questions. All right. Thank you. Oh, yay. VJ says, I thought last week was one of the best sessions we had. Oh, I love you, VJ. She says, tonight may have been equal or surpassed that week. Yes, it will be posted on YouTube. I will post it. In fact, I'm in the hotel, so as soon as we hang up, I will pop this baby on YouTube and it will be up tonight. Thank you guys so much. Alita says it was all different. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, look out for that email. I am going to send it in the next 24 hours. I hope you will do the 30-day Metaphysical Bible Challenge with me. And I promise you it will be worth the effort to be a part of it. I'm excited to share with you my system for goal achievement. And the challenge is going to be, I guess we'll do it via Zoom. I think we'll do it via Zoom. Yeah, we'll do it via Zoom. So it'll be just like this. You can keep your cameras off or whatever, but you will need to unmute yourself because I'm going to be asking you what your goals are. And like I said, we'll start with 5 a.m. Pacific, and it will not be. I'll record it. I'll record it. I was thinking, should I record it? But I will record. I'll record it. So, but I'll post it privately. So it'll be privately posted so that no one will be able to see it online unless they have a private link for it. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited, and thank you guys for those of you that are able to join. Thank you for joining me on my walk to being debt free. And I know I'm thank you for being a part of my testimony, and I know that working with you with your goals and being your accountability coach, I'll be a part of your testimony. So get this exchange going and benefit everybody. Yes, 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 yes. Yes. Have a beautiful evening, and I will see you guys not next week, on August 8th. Next week I'll be at Unity of Sacramento. So I will see you on August 8th. God bless. Bye, everybody.